So I bought my 2014 hatchback about 2 years ago, and it has been truly one of the best financial and lifestyle decisions that I have made in recent memory. So today I wanted to chat about it, why I decided to buy an almost decade-old car, even as a relatively good earner, as a six-figure income earner. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kate, and I like to talk about all things life and finances as a single woman in her 30s living in Toronto, Canada, and I really hope you stick around if you are new here. Now, I feel like the new versus used debate can get a little heated, so I just want to say a couple things out of the gate. If you want to buy a new car, buy a new car. This is not prescriptive. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm talking about my life and why I decided to make this decision and why it has been great for my life. I also totally understand that safety and reliability is a very understandable concern for a lot of people. And probably if my life looked a little different, I probably would have thought more seriously about buying a new car. So it's not to minimize that choice at all, but just to perhaps offer a different perspective. And you absolutely can get a safe and reliable used car. I feel like when we're talking about this, because the internet is so extreme, it feels like people are talking about either buying a brand new $50,000 car or buying like a 20 plus year old, like 300,000 miles car on it and like no in between. Okay, just buy like a 6-year-old car with not that many miles on it. And you can do your research and get it inspected and feel pretty confident that it is a safe and reliable vehicle. And I say this as someone with absolutely no knowledge about cars and no interest. I don't care about this stuff at all. And I didn't have anyone in my life to help me, like a parent or spouse or friend that did know a lot about this, that came with me, that was very knowledgeable. No, I watched some YouTube videos. I did some research online. I looked up common problems that cars have, and I felt like that prepared me pretty well to confidently buy a 10-year-old car. So it definitely can be done, even if you don't care about cars. And are there any guarantees? No, but there's no guarantee with any car ever. So you just have to do your homework, do your due diligence, and hope for the best. So now let's get into my reasons. Okay, the first one might seem obvious, but it's just the monthly car payment. I didn't want to have a high monthly car payment, and I wasn't able to afford buying a car in cash with the inflation that we've seen on vehicles during the pandemic. Like, used car prices had also gone up so much. I wasn't able to afford buying it outright, but I knew I wanted to take out a small loan and that I wanted to have really manageable monthly payments. I was actually reading recently that the average car loan in the US now for a new car is $737 a month, which is shocking. How are people affording this? Because my car, when I bought it, it was 9 years old. I think I put $5,000 down and my monthly payment was $265 a month, Canadian. So that would be roughly 200 USD a month. Yeah, it was pretty manageable. And I wanted something that was just going to feel really easy in my budget. I didn't want to have a $500, $600, $700 monthly expense. The anxiety that comes with that for me is it's just not worth having a new vehicle. Now, this kind of segues into my second reason, which is I wanted to not have a car loan for long. I did have to take one out. That is probably the reality for most of us, that we are going to have to take out some kind of car note if you are buying a car. And I knew that was going to be the situation for me, but I wanted a really manageable size loan, and I wanted a loan that I would be able to pay off fast. So I think when it was all said and done, when I included everything like the actual balance of the car, taxes, registration, the license plate, all of that, I think my balance was about $8,000 or $9,000, and I was able to pay that off in just over a year. And now I don't have a car payment. So it's not just the difference in the monthly payment, it's also how long are you going to be paying it off for? Because car loans have also gotten longer and longer. People are stretching it out now to 5-year terms, 7-year terms. And I just didn't want to be on the hook for like 7 years for a car, which I would have been if I had bought a new vehicle. Like, I would probably be paying that off for another 4 or 5 years now. And I didn't want to be locked in like that. So I just wanted a really like manageable size loan that I knew I could pay off aggressively. And I have made some other videos about paying off that loan fast, if you want to go back and watch those. But yeah, it essentially means that by buying a used car, I've been able to now save an additional $265 a month. All that money that is not going to a car note anymore is just money in my pocket. The third reason, and this is probably one we've all heard before, it's just depreciation. As a matter of principle, I hate the idea of buying something brand new and it immediately plummeting in value. I don't want to be the one paying for that depreciation, and you are if you are buying a new vehicle. Even if you just buy a car that is a few years old, someone else has already borne the brunt of that cost for you, and that feels great because I also don't want to be underwater on a car. I didn't want to take out a huge loan, have my car, depreciate quite a lot, which it can for new vehicles, and then actually owe more on my car loan than my car is worth, if that makes sense. My fourth reason is also because buying a used car can mean that your insurance costs are lower. Not always, not 100% of the time, but I have found it to be true that in my experience, even as my car is getting older, my insurance is going down. I just got my car insurance renewal this year, and it's gone down $20 a month. And if you think about it, it does make sense. Like, I did have a situation last year where my car was in a pretty bad accident, and there was a minute there where I was unsure if they were actually just going to write my car off entirely and like write me a check for it. And obviously it's easier for them to cut a check for a $10,000 car than it is for like a $40,000 car. So it does make a lot of sense why used cars would be cheaper to insure, and that has definitely been my experience. So my next couple reasons are actually more for lifestyle reasons than financial reasons, and I'm wondering if any of you relate to this. So definitely let me know in the comments if this is something that you have felt or experienced. I don't like owning stuff. I have come to learn this about myself, that the more things I own, and honestly, the nicer of things I own, the more stressed I am. They don't make me happy, they just add stress to my life. And I really feel that with a car. I love having a car that I don't have to worry about. I love having a car that I don't have to worry about it getting dinged in a parking lot. I don't have to worry about someone tapping my bumper. I don't care. And I feel like, especially in busy cities like Toronto, it's like street parking, parallel parking. The streets are terrible. There's potholes everywhere. Traffic is crazy. Like, it's very liberating having a car that I don't aesthetically care about. As long as it's running, as long as it's safe, I'm happy. If it gets dinged, I don't really care. And that has honestly saved me a lot of anxiety and grief over the last couple years, especially because, as I mentioned, my car was in a pretty bad accident last year. And that situation sucked. Like, that's, there's no denying that. That's always going to be the case. It would have sucked a lot more if I had just bought a brand new car, because when that accident happened, my car was, I had had it for less than a year. And if you had told me that I had bought a $30,000 or $40,000 car just for my neighbor to smash into it less than a year later, I would have been pretty upset. And of course, I still was upset, but the stakes of it felt way lower with a used car. Like, I like my car and it's great, but also I'm not attached to it. So when that accident happened, I could much more practically be like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's see what insurance says. Like, how much is it going to cost to fix it? But I wasn't actually worried about it as like a material object. And so I find having a used car very liberating, actually. I think it's my preference. So even when I do have more money, I don't know if this is something I will change, because honestly, it's just been such a weight off to not have to worry about having this, precious baby of a car. And I feel like this aligns really nicely with my minimalism journey as well, where I'm kind of realizing that some of the happier times of my life have been the times where I've had almost nothing. Like, there was a period when I was living overseas where I was living out of a duffel bag for about 4 months. And I felt so free and so happy, and it was so liberating. And as I've been trying to declutter my own apartment now and pare down the things I have, I just feel such a weight lifting, and like, I just don't want to own stuff. I don't want to have things that I worry about. So from a lifestyle perspective of just like simplicity, I really like having a used car that I don't have to stress about if there's like a little chip in the paint. I don't have to stress about someone, tapping my bumper when they're parallel parking. I don't worry about it. And I love that. My next reason is also a lifestyle reason, and it's because of the hedonic treadmill. And this happens with everything in life. So it can be any major purchase, it can be any major life change. Essentially, we have a short period of time where we're like really excited or happy about the new thing. but it wears off pretty quickly, and we all pretty much return back to our baseline level of happiness within about 6 months. So any big life change, and it doesn't have to just be purchases, this is just like any big life event, will be accompanied by that, quick burst of happiness, euphoria, excitement. But then we all pretty much just go back to our baseline a few months later. And so I think about that when I'm making purchases. I think, well, if it's all going to be the same to me in the end anyway, like if I'm just going to be feeling the same in 3 months from now, whether I buy a 10-year-old car or whether I buy a brand new car, I may as well save myself the money. So because of the hedonic treadmill, that is also another reason why I just figured buying used just made a lot more sense for me. Now we have arrived at my final reason why I decided to buy a used car, and it is really as simple as I could not afford a new car. And that might be a bit surprising because I do make a good income, but there's a couple different ways that I was looking at this and making this decision as to whether I could afford it that made me ultimately realize that I can't. So the first has to do with just cost of living in general. We all know what's been going on for the last few years. Cost of living of everything, with housing, with food, with transportation, everything has inflated so much. So even though I make a good income, I also live in a high cost of living city. That's often the case. If you make a good income, you are often also living in a high cost of living city. I also am a single income household, which means that I'm the only one paying this exorbitant rent. And most of our budget is dictated by three big expenses, and that's housing, food, and transportation. And so my housing costs are already extremely high. My food costs aren't outrageous, but they also are high because of the aforementioned inflation that we've been dealing with over the last few years. So the area where I felt like I really needed to pare back was transportation. And if you are feeling like your budget is stretched really thin, or you are basically living paycheck to paycheck, it's probably because you are having to spend too much in some or all three of those big expenses, right? And so for me, transportation was something that I very intentionally wanted to keep that cost down because my housing is already so exorbitant. Because just to put a roof over my head and pay my bills already runs me about $2,500 a month, which is outrageous. And I hate that, but it is my reality. So I quite simply just can't afford $1,000 a month going to a car. Like that's just not going to work for my life and the other expenses that I already have. So I had to make a very intentional choice to make sure that I was keeping my monthly car expenses ideally below $500 a month when all was said and done, including my payment, including insurance, including gas, including maintenance, etc. And I have been able to keep it roughly in that range, and now it's even cheaper now that my car is fully paid off. I'm really only paying about $300 to $350 a month for my car. There's also another way that I have started to look at whether I can afford something or not, because I think it's very common for us to think about whether we can afford the monthly payment for something. Like that's often where our heads go. It's just like, oh, well, can I afford like a $500 a month car payment? And if the answer is yes, then people will do it. I think about affordability and being able to afford something a little differently. And a way I have started to think about it is in the context of my financial goals. So I have not maxed out my RRSP. I have not maxed out my TFSA. I have not maxed out my FHSA. If I have not maxed out any of my retirement accounts, my savings accounts, to me, that's a sign, as someone getting into my late 30s, I really do have to be thinking about retirement and planning for the future. And if those accounts aren't maxed out, that to me signals that it's probably I'm not in a place where I should be spending extravagantly in certain parts of my budget. And if you live in an area where cars are pretty essential, a car is going to be one of the biggest expenses we all have. And so for me, that was an area where personally I was just like, I can't justify buying a brand new car instead of putting money into my retirement. Like, to me, that's just not worth it. I want to make sure that I am saving for my future and also saving money for other goals, saving money into an emergency fund, saving money into sinking funds. Like I have all these other savings goals as well that honestly would have been super compromised if I had bought a new car. Like the amount that I am saving and investing every month, a huge reason I am able to do that is just because I didn't buy a new car. And so for me right now, with where I'm at in life, my financial goals and saving for the future are just more important to me than any vehicle. That just needs to be my focus. And so for me, that feels like I can't afford it. Like if I can't save and invest the amount I want, if I've bought a new car, then that means that's not the best financial decision for me right now. And that was really one of the main ways I approached the decision, was thinking about, will I be able to save and invest as much as I want to every month if I buy a new vehicle? And the answer was no. So to me, that was a no-brainer. To me, that meant that I couldn't afford it. Now, is that super disappointing, earning six figures and still feeling like I can't buy a new car? Even just a really simple one, like I just wanted a little, economy size car. I don't want anything fancy. Like, yeah, it's really disheartening. I feel like I probably should be able to afford to buy a new car and still be able to save and invest. But unfortunately, because of our economic circumstances right now, that is just not the reality. And as much as I wish things were different, they're not. So I'm just trying to make the best of the situation I find myself in. And that meant buying an almost 10-year-old car. And I have zero regrets about it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if any of my reasons resonated with you. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.